No high school certificate, and all equipment is worthless. Johnson, the second-generation president of Northside Machinery, told me, "We have no salary for you, so you're fired." But as the person in charge of this company's most vital machine, it's evident what will happen if he fires me. Who is going to keep that machine maintained? We're not going to use that whole piece of junk anymore, so we don't need you. I'm quite attached to this business. I stayed on staff because of this, even when the president changed and inadvertent changes kept occurring. But I finally had enough of his despotism and chose to step down. A $10 million apparatus malfunctioned. Make the necessary corrections right away. I created it, but no can do because I don't like you. Unfortunately, when the machine broke down the following day, Johnson called me in tears. But I will not pardon him for taking advantage of Northside Machinery, which I, President Christopher, established until now. I was only satisfied when I heard his terrified voice on the other end of the telephone. I am 63-year-old Samuel. I am a regular employee of Northside Machinery, where I make machine parts. I've always liked playing around with machines, therefore my work, which is largely involved in the production of machinery, was my calling. I still do it for that reason, even though I'm 63 years old. Actually, I only completed middle school, and I can't say I'm socially proud of my job. That being said, I am able to work without feeling bad about my educational history because of Northside Machinery and Christopher, the company's founder. I stopped attending classes in the midst of high school because I was having relationship problems. I lost all motivation to go, so I stayed home and fiddled with machines, taking apart parts and screwdrivers. Even though I knew this couldn't continue, I was unable to motivate myself to return to school. 2 years my senior, Christopher, was the one who contacted me. He had protected me during middle and primary school. Then, he invited me to join his company when I turned 22. I'm considering launching a company. You're competent with machinery, correct? Would you like to work for me? But I didn't even graduate from high school. Your level of education is irrelevant. I am aware of your diligence and skill at assembling machines. Even searching among recent college graduates, I couldn't find someone more ideal. What say you then? At that point, I found it difficult to think about returning to high school or college, and I was concerned about how I would find employment in such an environment. I was pleased to be approached and valued by Christopher, so I took the decision to work hard for him and join the business he was about to launch. That's how Northside Machinery was founded by Christopher and me. Since you are more knowledgeable about machines than I am, Samuel, please let me know if you see anything. I will do my best to honor your viewpoint. He trusted me enough to grant me considerable latitude in terms of growth and production. Even though I was under a lot of strain, I knew a lot about the manufacturing of machinery. As a result, compared to other employees, I could see what needed to be done at this company more clearly. In reality, I want to construct a processing machine. We could boost earnings and streamline production with a machine like that. I see, but can we build such a machine? It will take time, but I'll make it with the employees during our free time. Are you truly capable of that? I understand. Tell me if you require any supplies or equipment. I am depending upon you. Following that, I created a processing machine. We took our time, working with the staff, and built it. The operations of Northside Machinery were centered around the processing equipment. That's incredible, Samuel. I'm so happy I found you. I'm grateful, Christopher. You put your trust in me, so I felt obligated to earn it by working hard. Christopher was ecstatic to hear that the processing machine was finished. I only completed middle school, yet he still reached out to me because he trusted me. I believe I was able to pay him back. Naturally, the machine wasn't flawless right away, but I fixed any problems and added features as needed. Northside Machinery's earnings grew steadily as the machine's processing efficiency increased. We kept using that machine to collaborate for the next 40 years, but we both got older. Christopher made the decision to step down as president at the age of 65, saying, "It's about time to pass the presidency to the next employee." It seemed expected, given his age. I had to say goodbye to Christopher with some reluctance when his retirement day came. Richard Johnson, a guy in his 40s, succeeded Christopher as the second president after he retired. Christopher had proposed that I run for the next president, but I turned him down because I felt it would be too much. I will now serve as Northside Machinery's president. I refuse to put up with slackers. Work diligently, everyone. The staff laughed at his haughty greeting. Why is that mentality there? I'm the new president. Let's celebrate. When they heard him speak, the staff grudgingly clapped. Then Johnson grinned triumphantly, clearly satisfied. Johnson was the department's first head of sales. His excellent sales record and amiable disposition led to his selection as the new president. But it was evident from this greeting that his amiability toward superiors was only a ruse to further his career. Johnson went on, "Even with the employees' growing mistrust, I won't accept the same lax management as previously. Put in a lot of effort during business hours and help the company make money. Save all of your money. We can't afford to pay for your idleness." Is it really necessary to say that in the first greeting? The staff members had to nod in agreement without giving it any thought. Christopher had retired, but they might report his true character to him. He is no longer a reliable source. For the time being, we have to figure out how to maintain Northside Machinery on our own. Johnson was our first boss when we started. Naturally, the first thing Johnson attacked with his pathetic greeting was our pay. Don't you think the pay is too high? Do you truly produce enough work to warrant this amount? It is not necessary to offer such a large bonus. Come on, let's chop it. How come? That presents a challenge. It was intolerable to have their bonuses and pay abruptly reduced. Johnson ignored the protests of one of the employees. Johnson also screamed at staff members for unimportant things. Who turned on this light? I instructed you to switch it off right away after using it. Under such strain, the staff could only say, "I'm sorry," again and time again. I'd instructed you to use the least amount of materials possible. Who removed everything? Well, to work efficiently, we need this much. It doesn't concern me. Take charge of efficiency on your own. Don't let the business's expenses go to waste. Yes, the staff members were worn out over time due to the continual ranting for little stuff. "Excuse me, President Johnson, this tool broke, and I need to replace it." "What? It cracked?" "Samuel, it had to have been your fault. Accept responsibility and get a replacement on your own." Since we had to pay for repairs out of our own wallets, we were unable to obtain replacements for damaged tools. No one was reporting broken goods these days. By concealing these problems, the staff was able to continue working, but ultimately the primary processing unit failed. "Hey, why isn't work getting done? You had better not be taking it easy." "No, this machine stopped working." "What? Up until today, it was functioning. It must have been broken by someone." The workers appeared on the verge of tears, terrified they would be held accountable. The development of this gadget cost $10 million. It would be awful if we had to pay for it. When I saw how serious things were, I hurried over. "President Johnson, allow me to examine this. Since I created this machine, I am the one who can identify the potential issue." I quickly identified the malfunctioning component, made the necessary adjustments, and rectified it. This should work now. The machine had been absolutely silent previously, but it began to function again when we ran a test run. That is accurate. Many thanks for it. The staff members appeared incredibly relieved. "Hey, what's wrong with this device? If it breaks down that quickly, it's a worthless item. It's had 40 years of use. I've been adjusting it to keep it going because it's very worn out." I was honest when I described the machine's state. I intended to direct the discussion toward changing out components or proposing a new apparatus. Johnson, though, misinterpreted what I said. What? You're in charge of keeping it up. Then you were to blame for the machine's malfunction. This machine has been there for a while, but it was still functional up until this point, right? You must have done shoddy maintenance if it stopped. I wanted to pull my hair out because I couldn't get through to him. I've been doing my hardest to maintain it, but some pieces are beyond repair due to wear and tear over time. We need new parts in order to keep it operating more dependably. Not at all. I'm not purchasing any new components. Why should I invest money on an equipment this outdated? President Johnson, the argument that just because something has worked so far doesn't mean it will continue to work. He has to be adaptable in his decision-making as president. But Johnson doesn't have that viewpoint. It's obvious he views Northside machinery merely as a means of generating revenue. Anyway, take better care of it going forward. If it malfunctions once more, I'll charge you for the repairs. Your careless labor eventually impacts the revenues of the organization as well as other employees. Samuel, it's only natural. Total accountability. Perform your duties correctly. Johnson turned to leave after that. I talked to the staff while I watched him go. Thank you, Samuel. There is absolutely no issue. However, since Johnson took office, things have become more difficult. That is accurate. This gadget is aged, as anyone can see. Since I created this processing machine, I take great pride in it and never skimp on maintenance. But after 40 years of use, several sections of the equipment are beyond repair with routine maintenance. Nevertheless, I'll just have to put up with it for the benefit of this company. Christopher and I built Northside machinery. I don't want it to collapse or go into decay because of this. I put up with Johnson's despotism in order to keep the business safe. Looks like you're working hard on the maintenance. It had been a week since my conversation with Johnson. The equipment had not broken down yet since I had been extremely cautious with the upkeep. But it was only a question of time. If parts weren't replaced, the machine will malfunction very soon. Also, there's something I need to tell you today. What is it? Old tools are trash, and I don't have a high school degree. You're fired because we don't have any money for you. What? I was taken aback when I received an unexpected notice. But firing me so suddenly. The president made this choice. You will comply, of course. But if I leave, who will maintain that machine? We're not going to use that old piece of junk anymore, so we don't need you. I had no reply to that. Despite my distaste for Johnson, I felt compelled to stay because of the machine. You're merely a middle school graduate, by the way. I see why you're so illiterate. You can't comprehend my way of thinking because of this. I became enraged at his remarks and retaliated violently. I am indeed a high school dropout, but I have contributed to this company all this time. Stop being so hot. I labeled you a dropout. Are you offended? You have been trying to hide your lack of education, but that will not work with me as president. I'm not fooled by you. Johnson's voice was arrogant. The reason the machines keep breaking down is that there is a dropout maintaining them. It makes sense. Well, the issue is resolved by terminating you. As soon as I heard Johnson's words, I became furious. I wanted business as usual at Northside Machinery. I had put up with Johnson's tyranny for so long because of this. But this is not the Northside Machinery I knew as a child. I've fully lost interest in this company, and I've accepted the notice of termination. Comprehensive. I'm going to step down. Yes, leave now. It is a waste of money to pay you. Observing this significant enterprise being destroyed is exasperating. Without me, it will be disastrous, but I don't give a damn anymore. I made the decision to quit the company because I could stand it no longer. Frustrated, I packed up my personal items and headed home. My family was taken aback by my rage, but I assured them it was little. After doing the bare minimum of chores, I went to bed because it was late. Still, I have little doubt Johnson will come to regret my dismissal. My phone rang the day after I retired when I was taking a nap in bed. Johnson's name came up on the screen, which was to be expected. What could he want now that he'd dismissed me? With this thought in mind, I took the call. Hello. The $10 million apparatus isn't working. Without even saying hello, his first words were, "Fix it immediately." The processing machine appeared to have malfunctioned. It broke the day after I retired, which was when I had assumed it may happen at any time. What's this about the machine costing $10 million to develop? Johnson asked in a worried voice. Furthermore, I'm unable to locate another device anywhere that has the same features. There is no way to replace it. Why didn't you inform me earlier? Considering your demeanor, I assumed you had already made plans to replace it. Despite your degree, did you really not think about what would happen when you fired me? No. He must not have considered how to replace the machine because he was too busy counting money and making the staff work. Such ineptitude is not befitting of the presidency. Since we can't replace it, I attempted to get someone else to perform the maintenance, but nobody is familiar with how it operates. Everyone insisted that only you could manage it, even after I gave them the order to correct it. That's right. Is it accurate to say you created that device? Come fix it responsibly if that's the case. I developed it, but no can do since I don't like you. Unfortunately. I co-founded Northside Machinery with Christopher, and he destroyed it for financial gain. That's why I hate Johnson. I can't forgive him for it. Naturally, I won't assist him at this time. Avoid saying that. The date for delivery is drawing near. In addition to having to pay a penalty fee and apologize to the client if the machine breaks down. Can't you pay it with all the savings you forced on the employees? Obviously not. You can't just turn around and leave. I'll hold you liable for the damages if you decline to assist. Make an effort if you can. I did not damage the device. Actually, I've been trying to fix it the entire time, but you won't replace the parts. Who is to blame for the machine going down is obvious. Furthermore, as I have already resigned, I am no longer in charge of maintaining it. Johnson, perhaps recognizing I had a point, didn't counter-argument. I bet the guy on the other end of the line is gnashing his teeth. I wish you had purchased the parts at that time. But you argued that I was solely to blame. I'll never forget your treatment to me. All right, I'll get the parts right now, so please return. I won't, I promise. I detest you. Do you know how it felt for us to work for you? Damn you, bastard with no heart. You haven't worked for this company for very long, have you? Are you not attached to it in any way? Yes, I do feel a connection to this. I put a lot of effort into running the business under Johnson because of this. But because of him, even that emotion is no longer present. Northside Machinery is a complete disaster because of you. I no longer feel any connection to this company. Farewell. I hung up, figuring there was no use in listening any longer. I proceeded to block calls coming from Johnson and Northside Machinery. I felt a great sense of relief after telling Johnson all I wanted to say. I then conducted phone interviews with former staff members regarding the business and Johnson. There's no need for us to stay either, especially since you were fired and the company is in such disarray. All of the workers are turning in their letters of resignation. The expressions on their faces are priceless. Everyone appears to be quite relieved. Is that so? He had been at Northside Machinery for about 20 years, working in accounting. Everyone persevered for the good of the organization, feeling obligated to President Christopher. However, after I was let go, they lost patience with me. I was the one keeping the business afloat. It was true, and hearing this embarrassed me a little, that Christopher and I founded the business. Being trusted by the staff made me feel proud as well. President Johnson attempted to place the blame on us after the machine broke down. It's absurd. It's obvious that he fired you. No matter how loud he yells, the machine won't be fixed. Actually, All would have been well had he just spent a bit more on the equipment and workspace. However, he was always doing pointless things. Yes, without a doubt. Yes, the findings of the probe are in. I'll send them to you via email. Thanks, I appreciate it. The email containing the findings of the investigation arrived later. I smirked as I looked over the paperwork. Johnson wouldn't be able to wriggle out with this much evidence. I unblocked his number after doing the required steps. Johnson gave me another call a few days later. He must have known he was blocked because he kept attempting to contact. He was so determined to get in touch with me that he continued to do so even after I told him how much I despised him. Johnson yelled at me as soon as the connection connected, "Hey, Samuel. Have you not been returning my calls?" "Obviously. What's the point of my answering your calls?" "Samuel, you invented the device. Accountability all the way to the finish." Obviously, I was interested in finishing it. But there was no need for me to mindlessly fulfill my tasks if Johnson couldn't respect the machine or me. Given its state of disarray, what use does Northside Machinery have to continue operating? We can't make delivery deadlines because of your resignation. The machine broke down. We have penalty fees to pay, and staff members are leaving. It's a catastrophe. Make it right. I'm not to blame for that. You're to blame for it, he shot back. What did you say? I'd inquired. I used the chance to clarify when I realized he was still confused. I'd informed you that new parts were required because the equipment was aging. Did you decline to purchase them? Well, but it's not just that. You wrongfully sacked me and reduced my pay and incentives. It seems sense that the staff are leaving because they are afraid. He was unable to refute anything I said, so he remained silent. People are more than simply tools. They liked this company and trusted Chris Chopper. Therefore, that's why they worked here. After being abused because of your money-making plans, did you really believe they would stay? But I am the head of state. Naturally, I am free to manage this business any way I see fit. Do you have any idea how hard I had to work to get this job? He retaliated. It was impressive that he was so determined to become president, but it didn't matter to us. To be honest, I was enraged with him for damaging the business. Did you really think I'd unblock you for no reason? What do you mean? I'd wanted to share with you something. Knowing you would call, I unblocked you, and you walked straight into my trap. You have been embezzling money from Northside Machinery, and I have proof of this. The police will be coming for you shortly because I've already reported it to them. You had better accept that. What? Johnson, on the other end of the line, must have been wide-eyed. Misappropriation. That can't possibly be real. And you've already reported it. You're correct. I've told them about your transgressions. Embezzlement is a grave transgression. You will soon be visited by the police, and you will be held accountable. On the other end, Johnson was losing his mind. My charge had struck the mark. How did you discover this? How did you carry out your research? I asked the accountant to investigate any questionable financial transactions. It appears that you took out substantial quantities of money on several occasions. It's not surprising, considering your regular fixation with money. Johnson had reduced incentives and pay, made workers save excessive amounts of money, and refused to update necessary equipment and tools. The idea of any money escaping his grasp was intolerable to him. I have the office of president. I am free to spend corporate funds any way I see fit. To accuse me of embezzlement is absurd. Even a president will face penalties if they misuse company funds, and the punishment is much harsher than for a regular employee. My remarks seemed to make him shrink. What sort of penalty? Will making a financial payment make things better? A president faces a prison sentence for significant embezzlement. You're going to jail then. While you can, savor your delicious food. No way. I was cornered and reaping the consequences of Johnson's actions, considering how oppressive he had been against me. It was so nice to feel his worry over the phone. Please forgive me, Samuel. Come on. I'll pay back the bonuses and salaries. I will even swap out the machine components. Is it not what you desired? When Johnson finally realized how bad things were, he started to change his attitude. Tell the staff that I'll make things right and request that they continue working as usual. If not, we're pretty well screwed. Even if you say that, I've already reported it to the police. Tell them it was an error when you call them back. So I won't be punished. Is that correct? Do you really believe it's that easy? Now that I've given the police proof of your embezzlement, there's no use in trying to get the report taken down. Conversely, I would just be charged as an accomplice. Please, Samuel. This time, I'll rehire you and promote you to manager. Isn't it a good deal? Johnson begged me, saying there was nothing left to do. We can claim the report was incorrect, the machine will be rectified, and business will restart if you return. All of the staff members will be back. Everything will be resolved. I beg you. He would most likely be pleading for forgiveness on his hands and knees if he were in front of me. I wish I could have seen it on the phone. All right, I'll come back if you pay me a higher salary than before. Oh, really? To what extent do you wish? Decide on a price. He most likely believed that it was a little price to pay to get things straightened out. His wallets must be rather full considering how much he embezzled. However, I informed him $100,000. What? $100,000 every single month? Could you please give me that money? Johnson had to be absolutely astounded by the pay I was demanding. For a man in his 60s, $100,000 a month was an absurd sum. That is really crazy. Do you actually earn that much money? You're lying to try to hurt me. You're not as frugal as I am. I'm telling the truth. I wouldn't lie about anything like this, even if the other person is a criminal. Observing his perplexity, I clarified. I've always enjoyed creating things, even as a little child. I've created a lot of things on my own over the years and patented them. My monthly income from that source is $100,000. Not at all. Someone earning $100,000 who graduated from middle school like you. That was probably a sum worth committing crimes for, to hear him tell it, but I earned it the right way. It seemed to hit him hard to face this fact. I never gave patents a second thought until Christopher made the suggestion. Before I applied, I had no idea how valuable my developments were. My inventions are currently used by numerous manufacturing companies. That allows me to properly care for my family. I questioned Johnson, so, can you pay it? After noticing that he was shook up. Oh my God, $100,000. But I'll lose money if I pay that much. Johnson believed that if I went back to Northside Machinery, the problem would be resolved. But he couldn't bear having to pay me more than $100,000 a month. I think he was split between receiving the punishment and going into debt to pay me. If you can't pay, then this conversation is over. Hold on. How come? Are you able to pay for it? Johnson begged. If you come back. I gave him a hard reality check, but he must have understood he had no choice but to pay. No matter how much money you offer, I'm not coming back, Samuel, I said. At what I said, Care Johnson lost all words. He must have felt completely helpless, with no way out. I was startled by a loud noise coming from the other end of the call. Then a voice out of nowhere answered. This is law enforcement. Are you Richard Johnson? Wait, I didn't do anything. I let out a cry. You might be charged with embezzlement. Kindly accompany us to the station. No, I didn't steal any property. Since I'm the president, using business funds comes naturally to me. His shouts were audible to me from the other side, but they soon stopped. He would undoubtedly now receive the just punishment. I smirked and hung up the phone as soon as I heard his voice being taken away. Following the resignation of every employee and the severing of business relations, Northside Machinery filed for bankruptcy. Johnson was accused of severe breach of trust for embezzling corporate funds while serving as president. He incited the company's bankruptcy, induced the resignation of every employee, and embezzled $300,000 in a short amount of time. As a result, he was found guilty and given a sentence that included an $80,000 fine and 7 years in prison. Moreover, because the actual damages were caused by the stoppage of transactions, several additional companies claimed a total of $100,000 in compensation. He insisted repeatedly in court that he was not at fault, yet forcing a business into bankruptcy for personal gain is a serious offense. He'll spend time in prison for his crime of destroying the firm we loved so dearly. I didn't realize things had gotten so awful. I apologize for not noticing, I uttered. No, Christopher, I didn't tell you because I didn't want to bother you, he answered. I should be the one to apologize for allowing it to get to this point. Apologize not. I take some of the blame for not selecting a more deserving replacement. This was bound to happen. Everything has a start and a finish. In any case, it's fortunate that Johnson received the just punishment for taking advantage of our business, Christopher reminisced. I reasoned that closing the business wouldn't be a bad idea after I retired. There's no one else I trust enough to take over, and neither my son nor daughter want to run it. It's best to conclude things amicably rather than going in circles, because you also stated that you have no interest in managing. This circumstance has demonstrated that this was the best decision. That is accurate. Given the age of the business I founded, now might be the ideal time. Exactly. I don't see this as a bad thing because of this. Even now, I feel relieved. It sounds good to take it easy and spend time with my family and you. We established a company, created machines, and put in a lot of effort for 40 years. It's a little disappointing to end it here, but there are instances when it's better to draw a conclusion than to go on indefinitely. This particular example amply demonstrated that. I never had trouble making ends meet. I just loved working with machines and the company I kept. Thanks to Christopher's advice, I have enough savings to support my family comfortably and indulge in my interests. I'll thus start doing machine tinkering as a hobby and enjoy relaxing